Good morning and happy Tuesday, ATI ProMedia Live. We've got a nice show today. Markets are bouncing nicely. Corn, soybeans, wheat, all positive, which is great to see. We've got one commodity making record highs. We'll get into that too. We had some flash sales and some news out of South America. Really going to keep the show focused on grains unless my co host has other ideas. You never know what he's going to say. Let's go ahead and bring him in. Tommy Grisafi, what do you
No,
know?
we always tell them we have a good show, and we could be lying. Have we ever told them we have a bad show? Uh, on my laptop, I'm watching us watching us. It's interesting to see that there's a delay. Hey, YouTube had some problems this morning, and that's interesting. It's wild to see how much we depend on YouTube and technology. And if you don't believe me, just go somewhere without internet and want to text or call. Speaking of internet, remember the AT&T debacle? If you're an AT&T client, go claim
Oh,
your
yeah.
$5. We could do a little story time with Tommy. I had some interesting phone calls yesterday. I had a young producer who was long 500,000 bushels of corn, and he is coming to realization he really messed up. And he asked me what he could do, and I said, "What you're doing to me is equivalent to a 300-pound guy on a gurney having a heart attack, telling the doctor he's going to sign up at the fitness center. So
Right.
you're trying to sign up for a fitness membership and the event's already happened. So you can't
And
call us and say, I'm having health problems. I want to get in shape anytime fitness. So all we can do, and that sounds like a really jerk thing to say, but it's true. The event's already happened. So the good news is the event happened. Um, it was a big deal. What happened in March, this was I was thinking this was like for my Catholic friends out there, and we're in Lent, this was going to confession. Last Friday was a confession session, and you had to confess your sins because anyone who had bushels on deferred pricing, they had to sit down and say, "Forgive me, grain elevator, for I have sinned. Take my bushels at 380. I'll do better next year." And this was the good news. You ready for the good news, Connor B?
yeah.
I said, "Are you upset?" And he said, "No, I had a pretty serious tax problem, and me making poor choices took care of that." And that's
Okay.
story time with Tommy G today.
That is the definition of a silver lining, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So good deal. I can't wait. Commodity Classic, I think you're leaving this evening going down there. I can't wait to hear. Make sure you pull everyone stopping at the booth. Are they bullish, bearish? And if they're bullish, I want to know how much corn they still have sitting in the elevator or DP. So can't wait to hear that. Let's jump into the show. What we got, Joe? Points of
Nick,
vulnerability, May and July options expiration.
we had this in yesterday. Remember when I told everyone yesterday that you quit and you were no longer here because Scooter Braun bought
You-
the rights to our show and you Taylor Swift us and you weren't going to sign the deal. But that's good that your clients actually liked you. Tell everyone what happened.
Well, multiple. I had a few calls that were like, "Connor, you're not doing the show anymore," and I'm like, "No, I'm still on. I just took Monday off." So
I can't
Tommy,
get a day off.
Tommy's wording, it was like, "Yeah, I'm done." Well, they tried to fire me, and I jumped back on for Tuesday. They can't keep me off.
Yeah. So what I want to warn everyone about, and we had it in the show yesterday, was exactly what happened in March. That is set to happen with a May options expiration and a July options expiration. It's really not so much the options as the first notice date comes into the future. We'll just time it with the options, and it's working. I mean, there are some serious speculators who said once we get through March and those basis contracts hit, when the weak hands sell it to the strong hands, they want to back the truck up and own some grain, and it's working. Now the problem is people we work with, they just own too much grain for multiple years. So there's not, uh, I wouldn't tell anyone not to buy calls. I'm just telling you, many people own too much grain, so they have too much length. They probably don't need more length. But an outside investor who does not farm just got to buy corn $1 to $1.50 than the most cheaper than what your cost production is. And last year you planted the most expensive crop in the world. So here's what happened. You had a really expensive house and you underinsured it. So you had a $500,000. You originally bought this house for 250,000, and over time your house went to 500,000, and you mentally never changed your thinking. And your house burnt down. You called the insurance company and they said you had your house insured for 250. And what we talk about oftentimes is when the prices shoot up, you have to change your mental mindset that you own a more expensive asset. And the farmer, for some reason, thought the crop insurance was going to take care of it, and it did. till October 31st. So the farmer's been a big long since October 31st, and their house burnt down. It's not funny, but it is what it is, right? I can only be responsible for the people we work with, and not the whole. I cannot take the burden of the whole farming community on my shoulders.
Well said. Well, that's what happened. Let's start looking forward. We had a positive day yesterday. I don't know if you have charts ready, Tommy. We want to look at like some March corn, but a good, no turnaround Tuesday so far. We got May corn up 4, May beans up 13, and wheat up 7. So good positive day. We haven't been able to say that where we had 2 positive days in a row in 2024. So what are we looking at? Weekly, daily, Tommy?
That is a daily. Let me get rid of that line. That's a daily corn, and that's our bounce right there, right? We could do
Yeah.
that for many more days. First time, people would be, probably interested in getting a little sold to be around that 485 level. And boy, if we went back into this level, anything from 490 to
We'll take it.
510 would be a serious. No, it could happen. It could happen quick, folks.
Absolutely.
Uh, I'm not against a rally. I'm not anti-rallying, and this is nice to see today. I have to tell you. What else would you like to see?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's peek at. Let's pull up soybeans too.
This is no beans daily coming off, but they got a long way to go. I mean, how long ago was this that we were $13 beans? When was about the last day we were $13 beans? That was
Beginning of
November 30th. Yeah, that wasn't that long ago. So we went from 13 to 11.30. Can we bounce? Absolutely, we can bounce.
abs-
I have to tell you, Connor, I got up early, went and worked out. I drove to the health club with my air conditioning on. It is so hot and sticky here. I feel like I'm in Florida. It's going to be 77
I
today in
I got some.
February.
I got something for you. I was gonna pull it up after, because we're gonna talk Brazil weather. Where is that, Joe? Here it is. Pulling it up. This is my forecast for today, and I just had to laugh because this is the definition of living in the Midwest. 73 today, 40% chance of snow, 29 at night. Right, 24-hour period. We could be in shorts and have our winter jackets on at the same time. So,
Yep.
other thing we had real quick, we did have a flash sale, 123,000 metric ton of soybeans, unknown destination. I would have liked to seen. I wonder if that's China or if that's another market, but good to see either way. So, other thing, Tommy, we talked about one commodity's making all-time highs, right? Not the commodity necessarily our viewers want, but cocoa is. Look at that spike in the past. What is that? The past 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
believe.
Could you
Just
imagine the pain of being short a call, thinking like, "Hey, we can't go much above 450 or 5," and like the few days later, you're 7. I mean, the amount of money being lost there. And you know what I need to do? It's going to take me a little bit of time. We need to see what volatility is on options in cocoa, and I could ask our friend PJ if he could do that for us. He could look
yeah,
it up real quick, or our own. I'm sure we could do it internally. It's just not something I look at, but I love to talk about volatilities. That volatility's low in the stock market. Stock market's at all-time highs.
yep.
Volatility's still pretty low in corn. Speaking of volatility in corn, remember a few weeks ago we kept saying corn volatility is extremely low. Whether you want to buy calls or buy puts, it's extremely low. Last Friday, corn volatility hit 3-month highs, so it's not as cheap as it used to be.
It's I feel like all of us at advanced trading, we talk about volatility, and this cocoa chart shows it exactly. Where if we're doing the wrong things, we don't like volatility. But I think us, if you're a producer, if we're doing the right things and managing it, volatility can be our friend, Tommy. So as long as we're ready for it and be ready to expect it, because year in year out, we can see this corn soybean market move.
Yeah, throw
So
you a curveball. We pretty much have crop insurance set. Is that correct?
yep, I'd say so.
Do you remember those prices? Why am I thinking
Last week I had it at 4. I haven't added it. I had it at 468. Let's take,
a few
back of
pennies
the
off?
pencil
Yeah,
math. Take a few pennies off. Let's call it a 466, 467 on corn. Soybeans, what was soybeans, Tommy? Was it 11
1140.
1140 sounds right.
Yeah.
Maybe a touch higher than that.
Let's go with 1150 beans. I know that's too high, and we'll go with
Yep.
465 corn
Yep.
to be generous. But within 2 cents here, there's not going to matter. So we still have that gap to cover. That gap between I have crop insurance today. After the call for y'all watching today, would be a great day to call your crop insurance agent. Say, here's what coverage I'm thinking. What's that look like? What happens if I have a good crop? What happens if I have a bad crop?
Yep.
Um, there is a chance we could have a serious weather market here with the shorts the way they are, the weather the way it is, the world the way it is. but I don't know that a rally would last long. I don't see a multi-year deal changer because we just have too much corn to grind through. Let's do infomercial. Where are we going to be this week, Joe? We're going to be at Commodity Classic. We're going to be at booth 4202. I'll be speaking Thursday in room 230, and then we'll be at booth 4202. I'm going to broadcast live Thursday and Friday from the booth. Stop by. Love to see you. I've met some great friends down there. It's a really classy event. It's expensive for us all to go down there, and it's by far the number one ag commodity event that I like. I've never been to Houston. I'm interested to see what that is. Speaking of Houston, the weather, the high tomorrow is only going to be 57, so wide range of weather
Should
there.
should have had Commodity Classic in Central Illinois. What were they thinking?
Yeah, speaking of weather, when we do go ATI Pro Media Premium, every Tuesday special is going to be a weather special. So after work, after we film this, we usually do our premium content. Yesterday's premium content, Brady Huck did a really great job of breaking down the cattle markets. And I think today Brady had mentioned that you and him might sit down and dissect that chart that Mark sent yesterday and really dissect, hey, what's it like to uh, have like the way it was said to me or the way I looked on the internet was, wow, that's pretty awesome to have a March call that expired worthless. I'm really interested to see where your sale was, right? And so you pair up that loss of that call with that great sale. It's a lot better than selling the grain at the dead low and then flipping and buying a call there. Um,
Absolutely.
but we're still working with people. There's still such a need for education. I was on Chip Flory's show Friday. I said, Chip, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I think farmer marketing, we've taken some giant steps back. He said, well, why do you think that? And I said, because they made some horrible mistakes. Decisions you make during good times bad decisions you make during good times will very much affect you during bad times. And those decisions are now coming through. But the one thing they're forgetting is the cost of money is 3 times higher than it was a few years ago. And that's the one that's really stinging quietly. So what else do we have, my friend? You have some South American maps, I see.
Let's fly through them. We're going a little bit long, but Cesar Cruz, head of research, talk about a valuable guy when we look at South America. He put these together. But let's look at soybean harvest, right? And so that's the big talk. And then the safrinha corn crop. So soybean harvest is progressing nicely. They're at 38% harvested in Brazil last week. They were 29, and last year they were 34. So a little bit above average pace. They're progressing nicely. Mato Grosso, 70% harvested as we look at that. So that's moving forward nicely. They've had the weather to be able to really go in and get after it. And so the same thing, looking at that second corn planting progress, overall 60% harvested, much big jump over last week and last year. We're seeing great progress. Mato Grosso again, right? That's the Midwest of Brazil. That's where we're going to see a ton of corn. That's where we're going to see most of the corn acres come from. They're 78% harvested. So they've had the opportunity. The weather's been good. They've had it planted well. So now, right, every conditions have been good going in, but we've got a long way to go before we see that crop made. And especially, if our July is probably going to be their April, Tommy, just looking where they really need the rains and where they're going to come from. And just looking at the next 14-day forecast, right, they're a little dry in Mato Grosso, a little below average on rainfall. So not necessarily, when we think below average rainfall and planting, not necessarily a bad thing. We like to be able to get the crop in, but it'll be interesting to see if the trade starts reacting if we see that continued forecast look dry.
Hmm. Yeah, pretty interesting. Yesterday we cut a YouTube short, Joe did, and it's funny to see how those YouTube shorts react. But what I said in the YouTube short was that the Ukraine war really distorted the prices of grain. That little YouTube clip had over 4,000 views. I found that interesting. But there's
Awesome.
keywords that people are listening to, and drought would be one of those keywords, right? If we
It
if we
always is.
made a thumbnail that was big drought in 2024, oh, we'd have so many views. But if we said prices were going to collapse in 2024, I don't know that people would watch the show. So we'll keep telling the truth. I got my hand on the close trigger. Before we
Let's
go,
do it.
any comments, questions, anything else? You told me we had nothing to talk about, and we had plenty to talk about. Oh, how do people get a
We
hold of
always
us?
do.
Let's see if you could say the number right after a day off.
855-737-FARM. Give us a call. Shoot us an email if you got any questions or anything you want us to talk about, anything like that. Make sure to say hi to Tommy Grisafi, Brady Huck at Commodity Classic. I think we got a few other ATI
Tony
people
Dunker,
going.
Dave Fogo, Cat Sullivan. Yeah, good
Oh,
crew.
we got the A lineup going down there. Ton of great people. So make sure to say hi. And with that, we'll see you Wednesday, Tommy.
See you, bud.
Thanks for joining us. We're here every day, 9 a.m. Central. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.